One team will be in first place, the other on a 3-game losing streak. We're talking about what's at stake for both the Bills and Jets in Week 6 today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app and use code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Welcome in, folks. This will be the last conversation that we have before the Bills take on the Jets Monday Night Football Week 6. On today's episode, I'm going to give you my 5 predictions for Monday night and break down the injuries with banged up Bills. But first, let's take a realistic look at what this Jets team is and, of course, what's at stake for both teams on Monday night. I'm joined now by Chris Schubert, a friend of mine, somebody that I've worked a lot with throughout the years at multiple places, including again here on the Locked On Network. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. But Chris Schubert, welcome in. When I knew the Bills were playing the Jets, I knew we had to have a conversation. So here we are. Welcome in.
Joe, look at us back together again, doing a podcast, talking about football. What a great time. What a great time to be alive, Joe.
Right. It truly is. And, well, we can certainly unite over that, but maybe not on what's going to happen on Monday night. I think we have very different desires on the outcome. Monday Night Football, yep. Bills versus Jets. And so I wanted to have a conversation with you through the lens of, hey, we're friends, man. You're a Jets fan. I'm a Bills fan. We have different rooting interests. We have different concerns going into this game. The reality is someone is going to lose their third in a row. That's going to happen. One team's coming out of Monday night in sole possession of first place, the AFC East. The other is losing their third straight game. So there's a lot on the line here in Week 6. But I do want to start with, obviously, this coaching change. Robert Saleh fired, and I don't think that's necessarily a surprise. It's that it happened right now, this early in the season. And obviously there's so many layers to this. You and I haven't talked yet. I'm very curious on your vibe, your thoughts on this decision.
I think people that know you and I would feel very ashamed if I didn't mention that there is a chance that the teams tie on Monday night. And so that,
you know what?
A team doesn't lose 3 in a row. So I just wanted to stay on brand for us here. But yes, let's get back to Robert Saleh no longer being the head coach of the New York Jets. And I think I come from it in a place of 2 things can be true at the same time. It can be the right decision in a vacuum to say that Robert Saleh wasn't getting the most out of this team and that Robert Saleh was not coaching the team at a level that was a comparison to the expectations that the team has. But at the same time, the process about this could stink out loud. You allow this guy to be 18-33 over his first couple of years and you don't make a change. And then he finally gets the quarterback, which is your big excuse for the reason why Robert Saleh needs to stick around because he hasn't gotten a fair shake. And then 5 games in, all of a sudden you change your mind. The place that I come from is there's nothing that occurred over these 5 games that was any different from the way Robert Saleh was coaching this team that led him to be 18-33. He had the team unprepared. They were undisciplined, didn't hold them accountable. They got off to slow starts. I mean, all of that stuff permeated the first 3 or 4 years that Robert Saleh was here. It's not new through these first 5 games, but they needed to make a decision to get this back on track. The issue I have with it is I can have certain expectations for the New York Jets as a fan, a podcast host, and somebody who follows the Jets. You can have expectations about the New York Jets as a podcast host and as somebody who consumes football. In that building, the expectations are one thing and one thing only when they traded for Aaron Rodgers, and that is to win the Super Bowl. That's what the expectations were. And now, those expectations now have to go through this important fact. No team has ever won a Super Bowl in the year in which they fired their head coach. You've never made an in-season coaching change and gone on to win the Super Bowl. And I don't anticipate the very well-run organization that is the New York Jets to be the first team to break through that wall. So it's a mixed message for me, Joe. I look at this team and I say they probably needed to do this, but I just don't know if it's going to do anything to change what is the major problem with this team right now is offensively. They are bankrupt. They are lost. They just don't have a direction.
Well, I certainly want to get your thoughts more on the offense, but I do want to share with you kind of my general takeaway from the Saleh firing. And I don't think much of Robert Saleh as a head coach. I don't. And so I don't really see the harm. I think if anything, you could galvanize the team. You could get a spark here where, yeah, they're 2-3. 2 of those losses came against NFC teams. You've got a big slate of AFC games right ahead of you, including Monday night against the Bills. You've got the Steelers. You have the Patriots and Texans. That's the next 4 games. The Jets they're not out of it. You know, the AFC East looks like it's pretty open. And so why not use this as an opportunity to potentially galvanize the team, especially if you don't think much of Robert Saleh? Now, I know there's plenty of process questions there, and if it was this short of a leash, why was he even the coach? I get all of that. But here we are, and I don't really see the harm. I think that's my general takeaway in that decision.
Yeah, I don't think that's unfair, right? Because I think keeping him around maybe only could have made it worse. I worry about the mechanics of what this week has become for the Jets, because you now took your DC out of his spot, and now you're asking him to be a first-time head coach, and he's also probably still going to call plays on the defensive side of things, and that's just a procedural thing, right? It's easy to promote a guy, but this guy, after the defense was done being on the field and the offense was on the field, he could go talk to his players and figure out what adjustments need to be made. Well, he's the head coach now. He has to make the decisions of, are we going to go for it on this 4th and 2? What are the people in my ear telling me the percentages are? Should we go for it? How's the offense going? Do I need to tell Todd to do this or that? They've also changed offensive play callers. So you're right in the sense that if you didn't think Robert Saleh was that great of a head coach, and I agree with you that he was probably doing more harm than good, there are still issues with the person that you have put in charge in Robert Saleh's place that until I see the mechanics of it work on Monday night, I'm just not sure if the defense is now not going to suffer a little bit, right? I do a Jets podcast outside of the Locked On Network, so I won't, no cheap plugs here. But one of the things we talk about here is the defense. If you were talking about it on a 1 to 10 scale right now, it's probably playing at a 7, 8, 8, 9, however you want to talk about it. And the offense is probably at a 3 or a 4. If by Jeff Ulbrich taking over the head coaching duties and making these changes and needing to focus on that and not focusing on the defense, if the defense slides from an 8-9 to a 6-7, but the offense goes up from a 3-4 to a 5-6, is that a good balance? Is that a good change that leads for better results? I don't know. And I think that's the place where I'm at right now, is I got a team that's trying to make the playoffs. We just changed 3 parts of the coaching staff in a matter of 72 hours. And I don't know if it's going to do anything. I really don't.
And coming back from London as well, another layer to this overall equation. Maybe that focuses the team, you know, where you could kind of get caught up in how all of that is difficult to achieve at once. But at the same time, it's like you don't have any other choice, sink or swim. Like, this is big opportunities for people that will define probably a lot of their next steps in their own individual careers. Let's talk a little bit more about the offense. Obviously not performing well. I can give you a bunch of metrics that tell you that it's not performing well. What is at the root of this in your mind that is holding it back? And then, like, what are some of the practical things you think they can do to get on track?
Oh, the things holding them back are they have a play caller, or at least they had a former play caller, who's just not good at his job. And they have a 41-year-old quarterback who, and I don't mean this maliciously, he's just stubborn. He likes things a certain way. We talk about it in today's modern NFL, the easy buttons on offense, right? The easy buttons being motion and play action. Well, the Jets don't do those things because their quarterback doesn't want to do those things. And when your offense is struggling, I look at those 2 things, putting guys in motion, using play action more, as easy ways to get your offense not to be, you know, a statistical juggernaut and be a top 5 team, but to just get your offense in flow. And I think what has held this team back through the first 5 games is they don't get into a good flow. It's the reason for the slow starts. You can watch a Jets game, at least while Nathaniel Hackett was calling plays this season, and you look up and it's 2nd and 9. It's 3rd and 8. Like, and they're just off schedule. They're just behind the curve. And when you do that, you're now saying, okay, 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who's coming off of an Achilles injury with an offensive line that he still hasn't gelled with and skill players that he's still trying to get up to speed with, get us out of 3rd and 8 plus all the time. And that's just, you're not going to win in the NFL that way. You are not going to find success in that type of structure. So they have to get early wins. They have to be able to get themselves into 2nd and 3rd and shorts and to allow their offense to find a flow. Because to me, This is so much of a confidence-based offense where Rodgers has to feel in flow. Garrett Wilson has to feel. I mean, they threw the ball to him 22 times when they were over there in London, but they were all short intermediate stuff to just kind of get him into rhythm. There were no down the field shots for Garrett. All those went to Allen Lazard on the outside, and he dropped a bunch of them. So they just have to find a flow. They just have to find a rhythm. And I hope that Todd Downing, who's been sitting on the sidelines as the quarterback's coach watching this, can understand that, okay, I know I'm not going to be able to institute all this motion because Rodgers is probably going to get me fired if I do so. I'm not going to be able to get all this play action going because Rodgers doesn't like to do play action. But what I can do is design plays and get us going from a script perspective to get us ahead of schedule. And if it's not working, I got to pivot. If Breece Hall doesn't have it today, I got to get Braylon Allen on the field. If Allen Lazard's going to drop passes, can we find a way to get Malachi Corley on the field? Those are the types of things that this offense has to try to start to do in order to get themselves on schedule.
Guys, ever feel like you need a little boost in the bedroom? It's time to stop worrying about your performance and get Hims so you can feel confident knowing that you can perform whenever you're in the mood. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor visits. Just answer a series of questions on the site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. So start your free online visit at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable, compounded products which are not approved or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, and communism. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, and discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Let me ask you about this defense. Metrically, as good as it's ever been. I do have a question, though, for you. Are we being teased here because of the opponents? I mean, this has not been a juggernaut of offenses that they faced after the 49ers and Brock Purdy on week one. It's been like Will Levis, Jacoby Brissett, Bo Nix, and Sam Darnold now that he's back to being a pumpkin. Is this Jets defense legit? And the reason I really ask you this, I think their back seven is amazing. I think it might be the best back seven in football. The corner tandem's off the charts, and they haven't even really had Mosley this year. So, like, I think their back seven's amazing. I don't see the same level of talent on this defensive line with no Jermaine Johnson injured, with the Hassan Reddick situation, with some of the turnover that they've had, Quinnen Williams off to a slow start. Is this defense still what it's been, or is this a situation where maybe the opponents have dictated that?
You mean you're not inspired by the Jets defeating rookie head coaches in Tennessee and New England and going after a rookie?
I thought it was good context, Christopher.
You're not impressed with those performances? No, I get it. It's a very fair question. I will say, if there was a performance that impresses me the most, it's the Minnesota one, because up until that point, I mean, Sam Darnold was an MVP candidate to everybody else. Like, he was just, moving the team up and down the field. And the thing that allowed Minnesota to be so good through the first couple weeks of the season is they would get out to these early leads. And while their defense tried to open the door, Sam was great in the early going, and Kevin O'Connell schemed a bunch of things open. So I was impressed by that. But no, you're right. I mean, where the weakness of this team, and it lied in it before going into the season, is the interior of their defensive line. And with a team that has Quinnen Williams on it, how can you say that? But they've always had a difficulty stopping the run. They have never had somebody that was a ultra run stopper that you could insert into the middle of that defense. And then you get rid of John Franklin Myers. You think that you're going to replace him with Hassan Reddick. I don't want to do that here on the show with you today, because we'll go way over time on that.
Sure.
So they don't have Hassan Reddick. You then lose Jermaine Johnson. I guess the thing that would if I was going to pick something to be optimistic about, it's that Will McDonald has taken this opportunity and he's become a bit of a force defensively. I mean, he's producing all the sacks for this team. But no, they're not the defense that they've been in years past. And it's because the thing that has been their Achilles heel, which has been their run defense, has only gotten worse. That being said, it's not like it's an unknown quantity. Everybody knows they can't stop the run. And yet I have not seen, since the first game of the season, a team really take advantage of that. So credit to the coaching staff on the defensive side of things to shoring that up and them being able to do enough. But yeah, that would be the Achilles heel for this team. You didn't mention, but Quincy Williams has just become a star at the linebacker position. They haven't had CJ Mosley. Sauce has been off to a rough start, dropped an interception in that Minnesota game. So it's not like the back seven is playing perfect football or football that we've seen from them in the past. DJ Reed's been committing penalties. So I still think there's a little juice left in the tank for that back seven. But overall, I think this defense is not going to be what it's been in the last couple of years, but it is going to achieve the mission statement, which is be a good enough defense to keep the Jets in football games. And hopefully you get enough out of Aaron Rodgers to win. So
we've talked about the Jets. They're playing the Bills, right? Let's bring this to Bills-Jets perspective. When you think about this matchup, go wherever you want with this. Like, what are some of those prevailing thoughts that you think are going to dictate the outcome of this game as it relates to, okay, there is an opponent here, not just the big picture storylines?
Yeah, the nightmares that 17 gives me on a regular basis. I mean, he just keeps me up at night. He is, and the Jets have in the past been able to at least somewhat contain him and control him. I mean, the one team in the division that the Jets under Robert Saleh have seemingly had the number of, it's been the Bills. And it's been a surprise to me because that's been the team that's had the best quarterback. Now, with their inability, I think, to stop the run, or at least to have that high-quality run stop on the interior, the concern that I have is without Jermaine Johnson, you don't have Hassan Reddick. You're basically asking Michael Clemens and Will McDonald to be the two guys that contain Josh Allen in the pocket. And I just worry about that breaking down over the course of a 60-minute football game, because you know what you're going to get with the corners. They're not going to play matchup. Sauce and DJ are not going to travel with people. They're just going to stay on their respective sides of whatever the defense calls. And if they match up against Shakir, if they match up, if Michael Carter is inside against whatever tight end the Bills put out there, that's the way the matchups are going to roll out, right? They're not going to orchestrate they didn't travel Sauce Gardner on Justin Jefferson. I don't know a wide receiver they're going to travel Sauce Gardner with. Right. I just don't see it. And so to me, it's all about, are you able to stop the debilitating backbreaking plays of, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12, and all of a sudden 17's running around and he's picking up the first down and he's extending drives. If the Jets are able to get off the field in those scenarios, then they're going to be able to keep the game close, and then it's up to the offense to be able to come through. But the thing that always is going to keep me up at night about this team is 17, because he's just incredible.
Yeah, and 17, little slump here the last couple of games, obviously coming off of one of the worst starts of his career. And Chris, he didn't turn over the ball. Like literally a bottom 5 Josh Allen performance that didn't include a turnover. So he's looking to get out of a little slump himself. And I'm not sure if the Jets are the right defense at the right time, because you kind of have to get back to a lot of your fundamentals to be successful against them. Or is it just the exact opposite of that, and it's a nightmare matchup? We'll find out on Monday night. Speaking of Monday, there's something going on outside of the Jets and the Bills. It's game 2 of the NLCS, the Mets and the Dodgers. You and I can certainly unite over being Mets fans. Right? Let's go Mets. We have that in common. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. And of course, the Mets and Dodgers game 2 will conclude probably around the time kickoff of Monday Night Football. So I'm giving you an opportunity here. You can guarantee that only one team wins on Monday. The Jets.
Oh, this is easy.
Or the you're going to pick the Mets, aren't you?
I'm going to pick the Mets. Yeah, I'm going to pick the Mets. It's so funny to me because I've been doing the Jets postcast, doing a lot of Jets content, but my brain has been so just locked in to the New York Mets right now that they're 4 wins away from the World Series. Give me that. Give me one guaranteed win there, because if the Jets lose on Monday and they're 2-4, it's a tough hole to dig out of, but they still mathematically can dig out of it. Those 4 wins in the LCS, they're very important. So if you can get me, you can guarantee me I'm 25% of the way there without even thinking about it. Yeah, the math on that's really simple for me.
Especially the first 2 are in LA, if I'm not mistaken. Right, so that means you at least split.
One. Yeah, you got to steal a road one. So you're guaranteeing me a road steal with a chance to go home and win the LCS on my home field at Citi Field. Yeah, I'll give you the guarantee 25% of the way there.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way there, Chris. Let's go Mets for sure. Last one here. We've teased a couple of times. You're doing content for Locked On.
Yes.
And so tell the people about that, because I'm sure we have a lot of Mets listeners, probably a lot of Yankees fans, and you can help with that too. So what's going on here with you and the Locked On Network?
Yeah, so we've got these locked on Jets and Mets postcast, which is what I handle. So after every Jets and Mets game, and the Mets season's gone on a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, but after each one of these games, I go live on the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel for live, immediate, instant reaction. So no 24 hours to think about it, no time to unwind. The moment the game is over, I push the go live button and I hang out with everybody over on the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel. So even though you might be a Bills fan and we don't have that in common here on the NFL side of things, you might be a Mets fan. So we might have that in common, and you can join us over on the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel. And if you're a Yankees fan, I'm sorry about that. Your team also in the LCS, though. If you want to consume that content, Jay Berman's got you covered on that side as well for the Yankees. And again, all under the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel. And you can catch us live, video version, and everything like that. So yeah, after every one of these games, I immediately have to dump all of my thoughts to my closest friends and fans of these teams, and we react in real time to everything that has just occurred.
I have been consuming the Mets postcast, and I will say, Christopher Schubert, you are very good at breaking down the game of baseball. And I've learned a lot, and I have enjoyed seeing that passion from you. All of the work that we've done together has been football. Yeah. And I've certainly asked you a lot of baseball stuff. We talked a lot about baseball, but to see you in that, man, I feel like you're just truly in your element, and I'm happy for you. Excited that we can be colleagues once again. And obviously, best of luck to our New York Mets, not so much the other side of the equation.
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words, Joe. I mean, you're the biggest diehard Mets fan of them all. I mean, you were there for all 162. I mean, you're grinding it out. You're rearranging the schedule with the family to make sure that you have these games on the television. So there's nobody that's been in the weeds with this team more in 2024 than you. So I'm glad that you get to enjoy this journey as well.
A lot of people don't realize this, but I've scored all the games by hand. I have a notebook where you
that's
see
fantastic.
I mean, I've really been dialed in. So. Excited to have you as the cherry on top for the analysis. Chris Schubert, thanks for being here, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy, so that way your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets hurt. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. I'm joined now by Kyle Trimble. He's a doctor of physical therapy. He runs bangedupbills.com. You can follow him on Twitter at bangedupbills. He joins us each week to get us ready for the upcoming Bills game from an injury perspective. We got some stuff to talk about this week, Kyle. Let's start with James Cook. I think everybody saw the play that came out, that incomplete pass that upon further review looks like it might have been a completion, but the big takeaway that we're focused on is what the heck happened to his toe. He was a non-participant in practice Thursday and Friday, limited on Saturday. His agency came out and said he plans to play. Obviously, I want to get your take on the situation.
That's what's really interesting about that. The fact that his agency said that he will play despite his turf toe injury, or maybe what we assume is a turf toe injury. I don't see that too often where an agency comes out and says the player's going to play and then the player's listed questionable. Usually we see the agency will say, hey, my client so-and-so has, a certain injury. He'll be out for the next 4 or 6 weeks, or, ACL tear, whatever. So it's interesting, the wording behind that. I feel like I have to take the agency's word for it that he will play. By video, it did look like he had a turf toe injury because when he got, he kind of flipped over himself and his left toe slammed into the turf, and then he was unable to return to the game. He did not have a game day designation at all since there was only about 3 minutes left in the game, but it seemed like he had a turf toe injury. We saw how debilitating those can be, especially with Curtis Samuel earlier in training camp. So the fact that he is questionable, but the agency's saying he's ready to play, I'll defer to the agency because obviously they know him the best there. That makes me think maybe it isn't turf toe. Maybe it just he really hit his toe pretty hard. He stubbed it. As simple as that is, I mean, we've all stubbed our toe and it hurts, and that can certainly limit your ability to do anything for the next few days there. So either way, it seems like he's on track to play despite what we saw on film.
Right. An interesting layer to the conversation that we typically don't get is a comment from the player's agency, but man, it looked like that toe was bent back pretty far. But I don't know, man. That's why you're here, and sounds like he's going to be good to go for Monday night. We'll see if it's limiting. If the Bills wind up calling up somebody from the practice squad, if it's a bigger role for Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, obviously that's all information that we'll learn. But seems like he's going to give it a go.
I think he will be. I think he will be limited, though. I think he's going to be more in the passing game. I actually spoke with Eric Turner from Cover One about this, and I just said, hey, with his toe injury, even if it's whether he hit it or whether it is a turf toe, but he's going to play, I would think he's going to be more in the passing game because you can at least kind of get out to the side and build momentum up and catch the ball and running versus having to build a head full of steam and run into a pile and try to push through that toe. Leave that work to Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. So we could see Cook be more in the passing game considering the defense per Eric Turner, and then just making sense of if he's going to play, that's how, we'd want to deploy him.
The name that I've been concerned about all week is Khalil Shakir. I think he's the most important weapon in this offense. I think you saw how much he mattered last week against Houston when the Bills needed some wide receiver production and he wasn't available. And so he didn't practice Thursday and Friday, limited on Saturday. I think some of the practice video looked pretty good to me in terms of what we were able to see. I hope you're going to tell me he's good to go, but obviously I want you to be honest.
It's 50-50 right now. By video, it looked like he had a high ankle sprain, and the fact that he didn't play last week wasn't surprising. He did look great on film, though. He was moving side to side, though we didn't see how he was running routes. We didn't really get much practice video today other than them warming up, going through the different drills. So I think it's 50-50. We have seen guys, if it's indeed a high ankle sprain, come back after one game. Gabe Davis did do that a few years ago when we've seen other wide receivers in general come back and play with that. It just all depends on, what routes he runs, when he's going to be deployed and which way he's going to go. I would imagine he's going to have more difficulty running to the right and cutting that way versus going to the left, where he can, put more pressure through the left leg and ankle and really pivot off of that there. So it's 50-50. Common sense says that he sits for another week because, these things can linger if you continue to try playing through them. But, if he's good to go, I don't see why he couldn't. And practice video, what we did see is promising, but I'm still up in the air. Yeah. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I mean, just given the considerations of everything with the injury and then how he's moving, I think it might be 50-50 and whether they think it's safe for him to go.
Well, we get the inactive report 90 minutes prior to kickoff. So that's when we'll know for sure. And of course, if you're part of the Locked On Bills subtext community, I will send you a text message to let you know exactly what's going on with his status. Another player we got to talk about is Taron Johnson. He's been out for a while. Feels like he's been ramping up. He practiced all week in a limited capacity. Is this the week? Is he back, or we still got to wait?
I think he's going to be back. I mean, he was looking really good. He was really engaged in his right arm during blocking drills, and he wasn't clenching his fist up, and he really didn't seem like he was favoring that side too much there. And given the time frame he's been out since then, it seems like he's on track to play. I'm sure there's going to be some pain when he does get hit in there, but he's going to be wearing padding and brace on that area. So it's just a matter of him getting back out there and just being smart and trying to not necessarily get his nose in where he shouldn't be at, but just being mindful as he's wrapping guys up and make sure that he can protect the area at all costs.
Let's finish up with these two defensive tackles. Ed Oliver, he's been ruled out. He didn't practice all week. He's got the hamstring injury that he suffered in practice prior to the Houston game. And I know that we don't have video of the injury or anything like that, but I guess we'll start with, are you surprised that it's going on for this long, or is that just the nature of a hamstring? And then, of course, any comments you have on Austin Johnson, a depth defensive tackle who's listed as questionable with an oblique injury, and he practiced in a limited capacity all week long.
I'm not surprised about Oliver because he did injure the hamstring on that Thursday before week 5. So you look at it, it's a week since, the initial injury, then we're talking on Saturday. So, week plus, Friday, Saturday, 9 days. It's not surprising that he's out, 2 weeks or 2 games because of just when the injury happened. Sean McDermott said he didn't think the injury was severe enough to go on injury reserve. He spoke about that Saturday morning, and that they were anticipating him being back for week 7 against the Titans, which is very, very promising to hear as well. It's just when it happened is really just the unfortunate. It's kind of like if you have an injury, let's say you play a Sunday game and then you miss, the Thursday game and then maybe miss the game after, or vice versa, the Sunday, then the Thursday game. It's like, it just sometimes the timing of the injury plays a big factor into whether you return back or not. And the timing of his injury just leads to him missing multiple games because it was a late week injury. As for Austin Johnson, given his position, defensive tackle, he's always pushing engagement with his core. I don't know that he plays this week. We haven't seen any video of how he's moving around. He was pretty limited when he did injure it the first time, and then he missed last week. I could see him sitting out another week, and even though we all thought that they were going to bring up Eli Ankou last week, they brought rookie Branson Dean, and I think he did okay in his first NFL action, but I could see them bringing up Ankou this week just because he has that veteran presence, and then they're not burning multiple call-ups on the same guy.
Another big week for Dwayne Carter, who did pretty well against the Texans in his first start, and a lot of extended play, obviously, in that one. All right, short week. Bills Monday night into a home game against the Titans. So that always means, especially, we don't want any new injuries. So let's get through this thing healthy. And as always, Dr. Kyle Trimble, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise.
Thank you, Joe, and go Bills.
All right, folks, let's close this thing out with my predictions for Monday night. We don't have as much time as usual for these, so we'll get through them pretty quickly. My conversation with Chris Schubert went a little bit longer than I expected, but I had a lot of fun with that, and it was good to catch up with him on the podcast. All right, number one, I am predicting a season high in receiving yards for Dalton Kincaid. Had 47 as his previous high this season, put me down for 48 or more. I just feel like the Bills are going to kind of get back to what they're supposed to be offensively, and what they're supposed to be is an offense that runs through Dalton Kincaid. And I think with the cornerbacks that exist for the Jets, the receivers that exist for the Bills on the perimeter, this is a great opportunity to focus your passing game on Dalton Kincaid. So put me down for a season high 48 yards or more for Dalton Kincaid. Number two, we're keeping it on the tight ends. Put me down for multiple catches for Dawson Knox. He's been a big topic of conversation amongst Bills fans. Sean McDermott's been asked about him this week. Josh Allen's been asked. Joe Brady's been asked. Feels like there's a lot of attention for Dawson Knox having more of a role in this offense. And so far this year, he's only has 3 catches. He has 7 receiving yards combined in the last 4 games. Put me down for 2 or more catches for Dawson Knox on Monday night. I think they'll make it a point to get him the ball a few times and see how that can open up this slumping passing game. Number 3, put me down for a Greg Rousseau sack. He had 3 in the first game against Arizona, hasn't had none since, if I'm not mistaken. And I think this is a great opportunity for him. Aaron Rodgers gets the ball out very quick, but he's also been sacked a decent amount this season. And I think where a player like Rousseau could really benefit in getting a sack this week is because I don't think you're as concerned with Aaron Rodgers getting outside the pocket, so you could be a little bit more undisciplined, if you will, with your rush lanes, which opens up the opportunity for inside moves for a guy like Greg Rousseau. And so I think he'll be able to get past either Tyron Smith or Morgan Moses on an inside move and sack Aaron Rodgers. And I think you could apply that same logic to a guy like AJ Epinesa as well. But put me down for that Greg Rousseau sack. Whoa, did I make up something there? Rousseau sack, a Greg Rousseau sack. I didn't even mean to do that. Maybe that was cool. I'm not sure. But put me down for a sack for Greg Rousseau. Number 4, I think the first to 20 points wins in this game if both teams get to 20, or, I think if both teams get above 20, I think this is a race to 20 points. I'm not expecting a lot of offensive production from either team. Obviously, the Jets, their identity is their defense. The Bills' offense is in a bit of a slump, particularly with the passing game. And then I think for the Bills, the defense has been very opportunistic. The Jets' offense has really struggled this season. And I think it's going to be a bit of a defensive struggle. I think if either team gets to 20 points, they'll win the game. And I think if they both get to 20, whoever gets there first is the winner. So a race to 20 points is what I'm saying here. And again, I'm not sure that both teams even get to 20. And then lastly, do I think the Bills win or lose? Obviously, the implications are big here. If the Bills lose, they will have dropped a 3rd game in a row. Or if they win, they will be 4-2 and with a pretty nice lead in the division in terms of the AFC East through 6 games. I think the Bills win this game. I know I said last week I don't expect them to lose back-to-back games. Losing 3 in a row would just kind of be crazy to me. They haven't done that since 2020, and I just don't see it happening. This Jets team coming off of London, firing their coach, new offensive play caller. I think that's a lot to deal with in 1 week. And this, while I think it could galvanize their team and how it could focus them, I certainly believe there's some truth to that. The Bills also have a lot at stake. And I feel like despite there being a lot of pressure on both teams to get this win, I feel like more pressure is on the Jets. I think the Bills can come in and just get back to their fundamentals, play a good football game, win, and get to 4-2, and then you get a chance to host the Titans next week. So put me down for a Bills win on Monday night. So season high in receiving yards for Kincaid, 48 or more, 2 or more catches for Dawson Knox. The first to 20 wins the game, a Greg Rousseau sack, and a Bills dub. Those are my 5 predictions. And with that, the hay is in the barn. Folks, we've done all we can to get ready for this game on Monday Night Football. The only thing that's left to do is for the Buffalo Bills to go out there and score more points than the Jets, get to 4-2, and make everyone happy again. It's been a tough 2 weeks. I'm ready for a dub. Give me that victory Tuesday. Need it like I need oxygen, folks. All right, folks, that's it for us here today on the podcast. We'll be back again after the game, of course, for all kinds of post-game reaction, all 22 review. You know what we do here on this podcast, so don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills, and I look forward to catching up with you again after the game.